I still recall the day that Zayn unexpectedly entered my room. Zayn, my husband's son from a previous marriage, had recently returned home after a traumatic separation, and it was a typical afternoon. Since his return, we have been cautious of one another in order to prevent the rekindling of any old tensions. I made the decision to switch into a different outfit while I was trying on dresses for an impending charity event. Zayn's eyes widened in astonishment as the door opened, and he quickly turned aside, nearly tripping over his own feet. I was caught off guard, standing in my pants. I stood there, my face ablaze with humiliation and uncertainty as the door slammed shut. I was left feeling unsettled by Zayn's homecoming. Adal had recommended it without consulting me, which was not unexpected given his propensity to make decisions without contemplating the consequences. However, it still seemed peculiar. Zayn required temporary lodging, and Dil responded one evening, scarcely lifting his head from his phone, "You don't object, right?" I couldn't refuse. Zayn had consistently been affable, albeit distant, and we had maintained a cordial, if superficial, relationship. However, his presence here was a different matter. The situation was made uneasy by his incessant reminder of Adil's past. I was unable to ignore the changes in Zayn's behavior as the days progressed. He began to arrive home earlier and spent more time in common areas. One evening, I discovered him in the kitchen, reclining against the counter with a glass of water. "Is it difficult for you to fall asleep?" I inquired of him, endeavoring to maintain a casual tone. He shrugged and muttered something about being unable to sleep. We stood in silence for a minute before he apologized for the incident from the previous day. "You don't need to apologize," I replied quickly. However, he insisted on apologizing again, and we remained in an awkward position until he eventually left. The tension between us was tangible. After that, we did not engage in much conversation. However, I could perceive the tension between us intensifying with each passing day. One evening, while we were viewing television together, our hands briefly touched as we reached for the remote control. I was taken aback by the fleeting encounter, which served as a reminder of the tension that had been accumulating between us. The disparities between Zayn and me became increasingly apparent as time progressed. We were unable to conceal it any longer. This mansion, which was once perceived as a sanctuary, now resembled a seething cauldron of secrets. It all culminated one morning when Adil confronted me in the kitchen. He was pallid and trembling as he demonstrated the truth about the situation between Zayn and me. Adil expressed his incredulity and anger, stating, "I am aware of the circumstances. How long has this been ongoing?" I was unable to bring myself to look into his eyes. "For months," I murmured. As Adil's face turned red with anger, tears streamed down my cheekbones. "However, I have been endeavoring to generate this for us." "You have been," as he gazed at me with anguish in his eyes. His voice faltered. However, it was too late. Zayn entered at that precise moment, his expression becoming increasingly stern as he assessed the environment. Adil shouted at Zayn to exit his residence. In the end, Zayn and I quietly packed our belongings and left the house behind as we drove away from the only home we had known for so long. My phone vibrated with messages from acquaintances who had shunned me after learning about the situation between Zayn and me. I accepted a position at a nearby art supply store, where I spent my days surrounded by pigments and canvases that held potential but were rarely touched. The wounds did not recover completely for several months. However, Adil appeared at my doorstep once more. He appeared older than I remembered him to be during our marriage. The tension between us was perceptible as he examined my face for indications of change. Adil inquired quietly, "May we converse?" I nodded and allowed him to speak. His words resonated more profoundly than any other alternative. I am interested in reading additional narratives of this nature. Please subscribe to our channel to receive new content on a weekly basis. Asterisk asterisk if you are captivated by intricate relationships and drama, please consider liking this video. Please express your opinions in the remarks section below. Have you ever been involved in a complex situation such as this? If so, how did you manage it? Asterisk please ensure that you activate the notification chime to remain informed about the most recent developments. Like what you heard. There's plenty more heartbreak and secrets to come. Hit like, subscribe, and stay curious with Tangled Truths.